Hi, everyone. Welcome to another New Year ghost story. This one was written by Sue Greenwood, who lives in the United Kingdom. And, I'll just go ahead and read it, I guess, and do my best English accent. Angela lay barefoot on the couch, enjoying reading her weekend magazine, smiling at the goings on in someone else's life, and wondered if ever she would have done something so naughty. Would I do that with David? She mused. Just then a vision of his mother jumped into her head. The last time they met wasn't a good one. Angela knew from the start she would never be good enough for him. My David is such a good boy, she remembered his mother once saying, with such a haughty voice. And what do your parents do? When Angela said, well, Dad was an accountant, all David's mother could say was, oh, well, that explains a lot. Between being vexed at David's mother and laughing at David, something made her jump. She could have sworn a hand stroked her feet. Quickly curling herself up, Angela reached down to her feet and held them, feeling uneasy. There was nothing to be seen. As Angela rose from the couch, her magazine fell from her lap and onto the floor. She smoothed down her dress and made her way to the kitchen. When Angela reached the door, she thought, that didn't happen. Running her fingers through her hair and shaking her head several times, she busied herself making coffee. Although the hairs on the back of her neck were still raised, she had to dismiss it. There was always a rational explanation. She just hasn't found one yet. Returning to the living room with a cup of coffee, Angela was greeted by an aroma. Oh, what an odd smell, she thought. Cigars and wood smoke. Putting her coffee mug onto a side table, Angela searched around to see where the smell came from. Inspecting the log burner, it was evident the smell wasn't coming from there. So placing another log on the fire and closing the doors, Angela stood upright. There was a noise behind her. She turned around quickly. Nothing could be seen apart from Archie, her black cat. He opened his eyes now, stretched, and closed them again. Angela sat in the armchair by the hearth and drank her coffee. Looking out to the garden through the French doors, she noticed the light was fading fast. David will be home soon, and they were going to a party later. Angela went upstairs to have a shower. Afterwards, while drying herself, she looked in the mirror. Oh, I'm getting old, she sighed. You're beautiful, a voice whispered. Angela turned around, quickly expecting David. That's odd, she thought. Hearing him running up the stairs, Angela dismissed the voice and proceeded to get dressed. David ran through to the bathroom shouting, sorry I'm late. He quickly showered and dressed. Hurry up, he said. We've got to go soon. I have to put my makeup on, she replied. Go downstairs, I won't be long. Finally, applying her lipstick, she reached for her jewelry, glancing in the mirror. Perfect, she said, smiling. Beautiful, the voice whispered again. Who are you? She asked, and Angela got no reply. David was waiting at the bottom of the stairs. Come on, taxi's here. Angela ran down to him, grabbing her coat and bag, and they were gone. They were off to a party at a friend of David's from work. All Angela knew was her name was Lisa, and they had worked together for years. When they arrived at the party, Lisa let them in. Hi, come on through. Taking their coats, Lisa was about to say something when the doorbell rang, and David looked at Angela. He leant down and kissed her on the cheek and pointed towards the living room. He said, go through there, I'll catch you up. I just need to speak to Lisa. Helen came in through the front door with Mike. After air kissing Lisa, she whisked Angela off into the kitchen. Here you go, she said, placing a drink in Angela's hand and sitting on a tall stool. Mike went off with a can in his hand in the direction of the music, leaving Helen and Angela to talk. Well, they talked for a while about Helen's friend Mike, who had come to the party with her. Mike had been a boyfriend in the past, and it looked as if he was trying to resurrect his boyfriend status. Helen seemed to be okay with this. David was mentioned a few times in between, greeting friends and dancing, and then Angela felt she needed to broach another subject that was playing on her mind. Do you believe in ghosts? Angela asked. Well, I know there are strange things that happen, but I'm not sure it's ghosts, she answered. Helen looked at Angela. What have you seen? Oh, I've not seen, heard, smelt and felt, Angela smiled. I mean, I know it doesn't make sense. Imagination, darling, imagination. What does David say? Oh, nothing, Angela replied. I haven't told him. He'd never believe me. Why would he? Helen smiled and shook her head. Angela decided to change the subject. Who is Lisa? All I know is she works with David. Helen looked at her. Has David not told you about Lisa? No, why? Giving Helen a curious look, Angela inquired. Helen, what do you know? Taking a sip of her drink, Helen said, David and Lisa were an item before he met you. Oh, was it serious? Angela probed. Was she the one who hurt him? And stopped for a moment. All I know is she found someone else. She left David. He was upset. Who wouldn't be? Helen waved a bottle at Angela. Drink, darling? Yeah, okay. Angela held out her glass. After taking a large mouthful and swallowing, Angela whispered, do you think he still loves her? Helen sighed. Oh, look, love, you need to ask David that, not me. Oh, look at the time. It's nearly midnight, Helen said, glancing at her watch. I best go and find Mike. A bit rude to bring a +1 and then ignore him. How else am I going to get a snog on New Year's Eve? I'll find David too, Angela said, smiling at Helen. Helen and Angela set off towards the living room. Angela saw one of David's friends. Seen David? She asked. Upstairs, came his slurred reply. I wouldn't go looking for him, though. Angela gave him a steely stare and went upstairs to find him. Another of David's acquaintances told her he was through there, pointing at a bedroom door. Hesitatingly, Angela stood facing the bedroom door. Why was David in this room? She asked herself. She opened the door. Angela stood horrified in the doorway. David was naked from the waist down, pushing Lisa against the wall. He was kissing her so passionately. David shouted, "Go away, I'm busy." And he turned. He saw Angela's face. "So I see," she replied angrily. Angela wanted to scream some obscenities at him, but all she could do was turn and run, pushing past several people offering kisses and shouts of "Happy New Year." Angela looked across the hallway to plot escape. She could see Helen and Mike heading out through the door. Grabbing her coat and catching up with them, they offered her a lift in their taxi. Mike looked green and Helen looked angry. "Don't let him be sick in here, love," the taxi driver said. "He won't be, I promise," Helen cheerily as possible said. "Happy New Year." "Happy New Year to you too," he returned. Helen was busy holding Mike upright throughout the journey. So much so, Helen had not noticed David was not there. There were no awkward questions. There was a silence in the taxi, giving Angela time to reflect on what she had witnessed. Her phone rang It was David. She turned her phone off and placed it in her coat pocket. Angela fought back her tears. The taxi stopped at her house. She paid her part of the fare and went towards her front door. Helen shouted through the taxi window, "Where's David?" And Angela disappeared into the house, giving no reply. The taxi pulled away. Once inside, she threw off her coat and went upstairs to the bathroom. She removed what was left of her makeup and got into her pajamas. Sitting on the edge of the bed, she began to think about David. Oh, how could I have been so stupid? For days now, he has been disappearing, and stupid me thought he was with friends. Even one of them said he hadn't been with him. I thought, I must have got the name wrong. What a bloody fool am I? Looking down at her hands, she noticed the side of her nail was bleeding on her little finger. Angela opened the door of the cupboard above the sink. She was looking for some antiseptic cream. Her gaze fell on a bottle of antidepressants belonging to David. He'd stopped taking them 2 months ago. Angela thought it had beaten his demons, and she had helped. The realization that it was not true hit her hard. Picking it up, the anger and hurt welled up. For a split second, she thought about throwing it. Instead, Angela opened the bottle and tipped some into her hand. A black thought crossed her mind. Who would care if she killed herself? David? No. Mom and Dad? Yeah. It would break their hearts. Angela sat down on the floor. The tears were flowing, and her lungs were screaming for air. The pain was so excruciating. Her head pounded. Hearing her heart beating against her chest, she thought it would burst. Gazing at the tablets through her tears made her realize she had to think very differently. Pouring the tablets back into the bottle and placing them on the sink, she went off into the bedroom, exhausted. Flopping down on the bed and curling up into a fetal position, she cuddled a pale-colored teddy bear. Her phone was beside her. She picked it up in her right hand. Angela turned on her phone. It lit up and rang almost immediately. She dropped it on the duvet in surprise. David's name appeared on the screen. Unanswered, it went to voicemail, almost as if she felt she was the one who needed to be punished. Angela listened to the voice recording and got to the part, "I'm weak. Will you ever forgive me? Please forgive me. I'm sorry." Angela deleted the message, feeling so angry. She sent one text in reply, "Go fuck yourself." Angela turned off the phone and threw it across the room. The anger that welled up inside her gave her strength to collect David's belongings and throw them out of the window. It did not matter that it was raining. Sod him. He deserves to rot in hell, she screamed. "Do you feel better now?" the voice asked. "Who the hell are you?" she yelled, looking around the room. "Me? I'm only me." "Well, me. I'm not in the mood for company." "Are you sure?" the voice said. "You sound like you need a friend." "Sorry, I'm having a really bad day or night or whatever," replied Angela. "I guess that." "What happened?" the voice inquired. Angela explained what had happened and how she had felt. As the tears flowed, it suddenly struck her. This person cannot be seen. She looked around the room. "I feel really odd. I'm talking to the invisible man. Who are you? What is your name?" "My name is Richard," he replied. Angela realized he was sitting next to her on the bed. As her hand reached out to touch him, she asked, "Richard, what do you look like?" The air felt icy cold. Well, I'm the handsomest man in all Christendom. He laughed. Angela laughed too. There was a long silence. She wasn't afraid. Richard, what happened to you? It's a long story, he replied, and I don't have a lot of time to tell it. Why not? Well, I've got till daylight and then I'm gone, he replied. What about a condensed version? The silence was deafening. Sorry, she said, I didn't mean to pry. Richard laughed. Yeah, yes, you did. I died in a motorbike accident not far from here. I was dashing home to be with my girlfriend for New Year. It was New Year's Eve, and people were out drinking and having fun. A young couple were messing around, chasing each other, and the girl ran into the road. I just missed her by inches. Richard stopped for a moment, and before Angela could ask him what was wrong, he said, trees are so unforgiving. Oh no. Yep, my poor bike, just a heap of screwed up metal. Your bike? What about you? She asked. Oh, I was taken to hospital. You cannot save something so damaged. Well, there's the rub, he said. She was seeing someone else. I didn't know. I went to see her and found out, like you, the only difference is I was dead. Still hurt, though. Yeah, it's an unpleasant experience, Angela replied. May I ask you a question? Why not? He laughed. Hasn't stopped you before. Angela laughed too, and then the smile left her face. What is it like being dead? Well, I would like to say it's like being alive, but it's not. My parents and brother are alive. My mother keeps asking, why did it happen? And no one can hear me, so I cannot tell her I love her. Well, I'm sorry. I don't know how many times I shouted at the top of my voice all the answers she needs, but to no avail. Well, that's sad, Angela said. What does she want to know? If I felt anything at the time of the accident, if I've met up with Grandpa. She is so sad she keeps thinking of taking her own life, and I do not want her to do that. I miss my mom, but her time hasn't come yet. Well, I can hear you. Maybe I could give her a message from you. Would you do that for me, he asked. Of course. Who else can do it? Did you feel anything at the time of the accident? She asked. No. It happened so quickly, it took a while before I realized that I was dead. Have you met Grandpa? Oh, yeah. He's still grumpy, but he's okay. Angela had to smile. It reminded her of her granddad. She looked across at the window. Oh, it will be light soon, Angela said. Best hurry. Do me a favor, Richard said. What is it, she asked. The pills in the bathroom. Throw them away. Angela looked embarrassed. You saw? Yep. I knew what you were going to do, he said. He's not worth giving up your life for. Angela went into the bathroom and threw the tablets down the toilet. She knew with daylight shining through the curtains, he would be gone soon. Returning to the bedroom tentatively, she asked, Are you here? There was no reply. Angela lay on the bed and tried to sleep. Her head was spinning from all that had happened. Oh, she must have dozed off because she was woken by the sound of banging and shouting coming from downstairs. And looking through the window, David was collecting his things from the mud. He was banging on the door, hoping to be let in. Opening the window, she shouted down, Go away. You're not welcome anymore. David shouted, It was nothing. It meant nothing. No, you don't understand, Angela said. It meant everything. Furious, he called a friend to pick him up. Angela showered, and as she came downstairs, David was climbing into Lisa's car. Angela refused to be drawn by his actions. Instead, it was easier to pretend he didn't exist. Making some toast and picking up her laptop, Angela started looking for Richard's accident. After a few false starts, finally she got to see her voice in the night. He was handsome. But finding his mother's address was the hard part. Finally, the pieces came together. She put the address into Google Maps, and after a second cup of tea, Angela set off to find the house. And pulling up outside, she was trying to think of what she was going to say. Sitting in the car, Angela nearly went home. But a promise is a promise. Eventually, she built up the courage to get out of the car. Richard's mother was at the window, and how sad she looked. Walking up to the door, her legs started to shake, but there was no turning back. The door opened, and she came face to face with Richard's mother. "Hello, can I help you? Are you lost?" his mother asked. "Hello, I hope you don't think I'm crazy, Mrs. Booth," Angela said, "but your son saved my life. Alan, come here." Angela's legs began to give way as she looked upon Richard's brother's face. Quickly, Alan took hold of her arm. "Bring her inside, dear." "That's right, Alan, bring her inside." Alan did as his mother told him and led Angela into the living room. Angela had never been so frightened in all her life. The fear set in and she wanted to run. She looked around the room for an escape route. Her heart pounded. A voice in her head said, "It'll be okay." It was Richard's voice. "Alan, how did you save this young lady's life?" his mother asked. "I do not know what she is talking about," he replied. No, not Alan, Richard." Alan had only just got the words out when complete shock came over his mother's face. Alan became angry. He said, "You must leave. You're upsetting my mother." "I'm sorry," Angela said through her tears. "I promised I would talk to you. I didn't realize it would be so hard. Can I tell you what he said and then I will go, please?" Alan was all for throwing Angela out, but Mother stopped him. "No, carry on, dear. It's okay. I would like to hear." He said he'd met Grandpa, and he said he was still grumpy, but he was okay. Richard's mother put her hands on her face, and then she started laughing. "Oh dear, you've made my day. Look," she said, taking a photo off the mantelpiece. "This is Richard with his grandpa." Angela smiled. It was a photo of a small boy with an elderly man in the garden. "Alan, can you put the kettle on? This girl must be cold." Mrs. Booth moved Angela close to the fire. "Do you drink tea, dear?" "Yes, please." "White, no sugar." "Did you hear that, dear? White, no sugar." Angela found herself telling her story to the Booths. Mrs. Booth was delighted with what she was told and said, "You know, he was such a kind boy. I miss him so much. He misses you too. Richard loves you very much. He did say I had to tell you your time isn't up yet. Alan needs you," explained Angela. "Oh, yes, I see." Mrs. Booth looked a little embarrassed. "Are you a medium, dear?" No. This is a one-off. Hopefully, he was just my New Year's ghost," she said.
Right.